Na ɗaya na tsaya na yi lissafi. Yawanci waɗanda ba musulmi ba su zaɓen jami'an. Yawanci. Saboda haka me yasa zan ba su mataimaki? Na yi lissafi za mu iya cin zaɓen ba tare da mun ba su ba. Na ɗaya kenan.
Na ce ina ɗaya daga cikin masu ɗaga tutar musulunci in kira jama'a ku taho mu yi Muslim. Na sani cewa
3 men, 3 decades apart, 3 different offices, a presidential candidate, a sitting governor, a religious cleric, different words, same language, same country. And every single time, the reaction split the exact same way. Not was this true, not was this fair, but whose side was he on? That is not a coincidence, that is a pattern. And if you want to understand why Nigeria has spent 60 solid years cycling through leaders who fail it, you have to stop looking only at the men on the podium and start looking at the people standing in front of it. Now, let's go back to each moment properly. 2012, Muhammadu Buhari, then a 3-time election loser, tells a Niger State CPC gathering that if 2011's alleged rigging repeats in 2015, the dog and the baboon would all be soaked in blood. His party's spokesman calls it a Hausa idiom for a fierce contest. His opponents call it a threat of ethnic bloodshed. Buhari himself later insists the real message that day was, guard your vote, go and vote. Stay where you vote. Voter education, not incitement. Now, here's the part that matters more than the quote itself. Nobody demanded clarity. His base didn't ask him to explain himself. They adopted whichever meaning was convenient and moved on. His opponents didn't wait for context. They ran with the worst possible reading because it served them too. 2 sides, 1 country, 0 interest in the truth of what was actually said. 2023, Nasir El-Rufai, on his way out as Kaduna governor, tells a room of Islamic clerics exactly why he excluded Christians from his deputy governor's seat. Twice in 2 terms, most of those that are not Muslims don't vote for our party. So why should I give them the position? He calls it strategy, not religion. Catholic priests in Kaduna call it Islamic political supremacism. A Sharia council defends him as simply telling the truth about how politics works. Notice what is missing from both reactions. Nobody in either camp is asking the actual question. Should a state governor be excluding an entire religious community from top office at all? Instead, everyone sorts themselves by identity and picks a side. 2026, Sheikh Jingir, standing beside a sitting governor at a campaign rally, tells Muslims in Kano to unite behind Muslim tickets, and by some accounts, to show infidels their limit. Femi Fani-Kayode publicly distances himself, insisting his own support for the same ticket is about competence, not religion. The Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria rejects the arrangement outright. A coalition petitions the White House. Now, 14 years separate the first clip from the last. The players changed. The instinct and the audience didn't. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the same country that we spend a week arguing over a viral Hausa clip can't be bothered to show up on election day. Nigeria has roughly 93 million registered voters, the largest electoral register on the entire continent, out of a population of 220 million. In the 2023 presidential election, fewer than 25 million people actually voted. That is a turnout of 26.7%, the lowest since democracy returned in 1999, down from 34.7% just 4 years earlier. Read that number again. Bola Tinubu, the man now running Nigeria, became president on votes from less than 10% of the entire electorate. Not 10% of the country. I mean 10% of the people who were already registered to vote. And It is not new. Turnout has fallen almost every cycle since 1999, even as registration numbers climb. More Nigerians sign up for permanent voter card every cycle. Fewer of them use it. Registration has become a performance. Voting has become optional. Now, walk through any Nigerian neighborhood on election morning and you will see it for yourself. Street football, laundry on the line, market women setting up stores on the street. A free day off, treated exactly like one. Meanwhile, the polling unit 2 streets away has 30 people in line by 8 a.m. and 400 registered voters who never showed up. And when you ask people why, the answer comes fast. My vote won't count anywhere. Sometimes that is end. Beavers' failures, late arriving materials, thuggery at polling units are all real and documented. But increasingly, it is an alibi, a comfortable story that lets you opt out of the one former tool you have, while still keeping full rights to complain about the outcome. This is the real disease, and the 3 clips at the beginning of this video are the symptoms. Nigerians will mobilize instantly, furiously around identity, religion, tribe, and region. Buhari's dog and baboon statement, El-Rufai's deputy governor march, Jingir's Kano rally, every one of them lit up national conversation within hours. That capacity for outrage is real. It exists, it works. But point that same energy at the governor who diverted a state's healthcare budget, or a minister whose family suddenly owns 3 new properties, and watch how fast it goes quiet. Especially if that official happens to share your faith, your tribe, your zone, or once handed your community a contract, a road, or a bag of rice at election season. That is the trait Nigerians have normalized for 6 decades. Silence in exchange for a personal favor or a shared identity. A market woman who chairs a governor who built her a store while he is simultaneously being investigated for missing local funds isn't confused. She has made a calculation. My interest today over accountability tomorrow. Multiply that calculation across 220 million people and you get a country where corruption doesn't just survive, it gets re-elected. It doesn't have to be this way, and Nigerians doesn't have to look to the West to prove it. Look next door. In 2024, young Kenyans took to the streets over a finance bill that would have hiked taxes on ordinary citizens. They didn't wait for an election. They organized online, showed up in tens of thousands, and forced President Ruto to withdraw the bill entirely. Not because Kenyan institutions were cleaner than Nigeria's. They aren't, particularly, but because enough citizens refused to let the moment pass. Nigeria has had its own version of that energy. EndSARS 2020, real momentum, real global attention, a genuine demand for accountability over police brutality. And then, the same old fracture, ethnic suspicion crept in. Regional loyalties reasserted themselves. The government waited it out, and it worked because it always works. The protest didn't fail because Nigerians don't care. It failed because caring didn't survive contact with old loyalties. That is the difference between countries that hold their leaders accountable and countries that don't. It is not smarter citizens or cleaner institutions. It is whether the pressure holds after the outrage fades, whether people keep showing up long after the viral clip stops trending. Awolowo built institutions. Gowon inherited a war. Obasanjo fought corruption in public and made peace with it in private. Abacha looted in silence while Nigerians looked away because the economy, for some, was working. Buhari promised change and delivered fatigue. Tinubu inherited a country exhausted by all of it and kept the exact same religious ticket match that broke trust in 2023. 6 decades, different names, different decades, same instrument. A population that mobilizes furiously around identity and disengages almost completely from oversight. Bad leadership in Nigeria has never survived purely by force. It has survived because it has been tolerated, cheered, even as long as the right group benefited. The right rice arrived, the right contract landed in the right hands. Corruption doesn't just come from above, it gets ratified from below, one silence at a time. Buhari, El-Rufai, Jingir, 3 men, 3 decades, one Hausa sentence apart from each other. And each time, the country reacted the same way. Pick a side, skip the substance, move on until the next clip. 2027 is coming. The same rhetoric is already in motion. The same turnout numbers are already trending the same direction they have trended for 20 years. So here's the only question worth asking before the next election morning arrives, with its street football and its empty polling units. If 3 out of every 4 registered voters stay home again, who exactly has earned the right to complain about who wins?